Welcome back to When the Night Comes. We need to face the lieutenant. This is going to be interesting. Let's go ahead and begin, shall we? And then the Lieutenant General Harold Addington appears in the doorway, a smile upon his face.
Good evening, both.
Unconsciously, I find myself tensing, bracing for what's about to come. If only this man was a hunter, someone I could read past the look on his face and basic human cues. If Harry is an evil man, he's adept at hiding it. His smile is kind even now, and I wonder if he has any idea what kind of situation he's walking himself into. Sir. Harry nods at me, his eyes flicking to August, who is quite visibly distressed and poorly attempting to hide it. I look at them, offering a clipped smile, hoping it would keep it together, hoping it might help him keep it together, lest we both fall apart. Harry, it's good to see you looking well. Their words are forced. Harry doesn't appear to be planning on staying long, his gauntlet, longsword, and coat remaining in place. Instead, he eyes us both from across the room, stopping in front of the fireplace that flickers inviting.
I have to apologize for my absence. As I'm sure you can imagine, I haven't exactly been in the right frame of mind to hold the whole country on my shoulders, let alone Lunaris.
I'm sure it's been very difficult for you.
They're struggling and mostly failing to keep the exasperation out of their voice. At this point, I wonder if it's just easier to tear the bandage off the room, expose the rotting flesh, lest August truly cast a storm upon this building. I step forward and August stands quickly, their chair scraping the marble floor.
Is something wrong, Augustus? You don't look well.
Yes, I want to say. They are falling apart, much like your town, your country. I quickly wade through the dark tangle of emotions that threatens to engulf me, and I clear my throat. We need to talk to you. Harry nods, still poised, still apparently completely clueless. I look to August, and they are in no state to initiate this conversation. Their hands are shaking, and I gather what they're seconds away from a messy display of untamed magic. Ddog? Harry quickly looks between us, finally focusing upon me when he sees that August is a lost cause.
Speak. Now. You're beginning to alarm me.
We're aware of what you're doing, of what you've done. The dead hunters, the missing hunters. He blanches, his skin growing pale, but he's no fool, and Harry shifts from someone who's been caught with blood upon their hands to someone painfully in denial in a split second.
I don't know what you're talking about. I ordered you to Lunaris to solve this mess, and you stand here and accuse me.
August scoffs loudly.
And you will stand here and lie to us so easily.
Oh, yeah.
What evidence do you have of the supposed indiscretion you accuse me of?
He says it quickly, defensively, but the words are heavy upon his own tongue. Then, I use the most powerful weapon I possess. James. Ooh. Harry freezes, truly turning pale now, all color draining from his ruddy cheeks, his eyes wide with shock and fear and pain in the utterance of his husband's name. I swear that if I listen closely enough, I can hear the furious pounding of his heartbeat as he tries to tear free from a chest. He swallows thickly, then he laughs. Though, it's a manic sound, the laugh of a desperate man. You spoke with him again. For the briefest moment, I feel sorry for him, the way he looks at me almost longingly, desperate for even a scrap of information of his dearly departed. It seems selfish that I would be the one James would choose to communicate with, but he was a good man through and through, and he could see Harry's madness, knew he was the right thing to do. Oh, he loves you still and he wants you to stop. Let's go with he loves you still. He wanted me to tell you that he loves you.
Even after everything you've done.
I look at August and they're still seething, their jaw tightly clenched, hands balled into fists at their side. They suck in a breath and drop their gaze from Harry as if they feel too much shame in looking at him. There's a flash of hope in Harry's eyes, almost as if he's resigned himself to the fact that his beloved had disowned him in death, that James was too kind to forgive him for what he's done. He stops himself, and there's a shift in the way he stands, and he holds himself.
It doesn't matter. I have to see this through. I'm so close.
You disappoint me.
August's words are venomous, biting.
Tell us what it is. The blood? The elixir they gave to them when they're merely children.
Harry drags trembling fingers over his face, and in that gesture, he could easily be that 20-something enforcer that I saw in my dreams. He looks lost. He closes his eyes, and when he next speaks, I can hear a lifetime's worth of pain in his voice.
Of course it was. Is. What else could it possibly be? It's always blood, isn't it? I am sorry I've hurt you, Augustus. I thought you might understand.
August bristles at that, and I sense a seismic shift in the way they hold themselves. They angrily swipe the silent tears that streak their cheeks, and magic swirls about their fingers in a messy undulation.
I thought you a friend. A father, even. You've killed people. Our people. We swore to protect them as they swore to protect mankind. We're responsible for them. They put their lives in our hands and trust that we will not put them in danger.
I take a step closer, placing myself in front of them, between them.
We take them from their families when they're children and raise them to believe we're giving them the chance to save the world. When all we gave them was a curse. You took advantage of their trust in you. And you sentenced them to die the second you placed that vial in their hands and told them to drink.
Harry watches them with an almost deluded level of disbelief, as if he couldn't possibly imagine Gus defying him in such a way.
And what of mankind? They'll overrun us one day, sooner than you think.
I place my hand upon August's arm, tugging gently at them as they moved a step forwards towards him. But August shakes me off.
I'd rather mankind die an honest death instead of turning into fucking monsters.
Good point. They shove a finger in Harry's direction, their cheeks pink with anger.
You are wrong.
Their voice is a rasp of itself, almost at a loss, almost childlike pain threading through their words, harsh enough that Harry flinches. Though his expression is still startlingly cold.
August, do you not see? I wanted us to be on even footing. I came to realize how unfair it is that they hold such an advantage over us. They can do things we could never dream of, and we have these hunters just at our disposal. The untapped potential that lies within them is beyond anything that we can imagine.
They're not at your disposal, sir. They're humans. Then he turns his gaze to me and he smiles.
Do you realize what this could mean for you? How much more you could be?
Then he makes an almost arrogant, greedy noise. In that moment, I see that Harry that I thought I knew, that Gus that thought they knew, turned to ash, replaced by a man driven mad by frustration and now grief.
Instead of asking, am I ready to take on our enemies, you would think, there is no stopping me.
Deplorable, unforgivable. Nope. Condemning, motherfucker. When the initial rush of commingled horror and fury wanes, I clear my throat and address Harry with as much confidence as I can muster. Tell us what you did to them, how you did this, so we know how to undo you. Harry appraises me, clearly not impressed with the tone in which I give him, but he considers me regardless.
You're curious to know how I made them better? How I can help to even the odds?
I mean, if you're gonna spin my words like that. I am. Tell me now how you made me better. I try to feign interest, hoping to appeal to Harry's arrogance. He might have been driven to desperation, but I can see his tells he's proud of his idea. He hums a sound of approval and begins.
A hunter is just a vessel, well-trained and disciplined, not always worldly, but refined to kill. We have provided you with nothing but the best tools to take on your target. Even the most meager of whelps are turned into seasoned soldiers. Resilient individuals, remarkable results. However,
he sighs, disappointed.
Remarkably uninspiring.
Disgust wells up in my throat as his callous comment. Remarkably uninspiring, you say. The anger I feel is matched in kind with August. Their aura is palpable, the air brimming with electricity. August is no hunter, but they were raised to be the best, conditioned to be nothing but the best. It was practically written at their birth.
I know it's upsetting, but please know I'm not disappointed. We merely mean to uplift you with the initiation. It was crafted to prepare you and protect you. We do not go into the field without knowing the danger, and we all experience loss in some form or another.
His speech cracks for a mere second. I know the loss he talks about, I've seen it. But is that enough? As quickly as it goes, his posture is upright again.
The elixir is a means to a promising end. It threads together the strengths of our foes without the consequences of their inherently evil nature. By imbibing this, it gives hunters the edge they need.
Harry continues, and he's enchanted with his own words. To be better than them is what he considers a passable mean to change us. I wouldn't be surprised if he told us he was disappointed in our human design.
The drawbacks, or curse, as you would so inelegantly put it, is merely an unfortunate side effect of its blessing. Like all science, there is trial and error. I have seen the errors and made strides to correct them.
Just like the Chimera. I think Harry might be irritated with how plainly I lay out and I already know, but instead he nods, something like respect crossing his features. As your speculations have led you to believe, yes, the Chimera is such a result. And then his face drops at the name. Clearly you are perceptive of how much is still a question, but bear in mind that this is a sacrifice for me too.
And why didn't you take it?
August finally finds their voice again, but it's hoarse, venom spilling from every word.
If the consequences were so great and you were so desperate, then why didn't you take it upon yourself? Speaking of sacrifices like you count them as your own, but you still used others for your own means.
Playing with creation by his whims and tossing aside the victims as unfortunate accidents. How are we expected to believe in your sacrifice when it barely comes across that you understand where we stand? You used us. Harry looks to the both of us, this time without remorse, and the scene playing out is unfamiliar. I don't remember Harry looking so scornful.
The sacrifices are my own. The blood is upon my hands, and it is a burden I am willing to carry if it means we can defeat them. I am expected to lead them, to guide them, make sure our path is set straight.
You can reduce yourselves to mere tools if you wish, but what I do is for the greater good.
I may not partake in all your battles, but that does not mean I don't lose myself in this war. Besides, I'm not worthy, am I? I'm no hunter after all.
He turns back to me now and raises his chin, staring past his nose at me.
Tell me, hunter, provided you had the choice to find a way to protect the things and people that you love as I have, would you do it?
Would I? The question rattles around in my brain, as so do all the others I have stood around to witness to, but more quickly than I had thought, my gut responds. Would I do everything to protect Omen? Absolutely. I would. There's a pause and Harry exhales. His eyes flutter shut and he smiles with some relief. When he opens them, they are less harsh, more inquisitive to us, as though the three of us had a trivial spat.
Then you understand why this must continue, and, most importantly, why I expect your full cooperation.
Condemn him, but lie, or condemn him. Okay, so we've got a choice here, right? He's asking us for our full cooperation. Obviously, the answer is no, we don't cooperate with this shit. So condemning him is the thing. But here's the problem. If I condemn him and lie, I would be lying. But I would technically be saving myself? The thing is, if I condemn him, will I die? We haven't come across this in a story part of this yet, of this is obviously a fork in the road here. Do I lie? I feel like if I condemn him and lie, I'm gonna get some shit from August, but maybe I can go behind his back and do something. Okay, let's put it this way. If I was in this position, by God, if I was in this position dating a demon, if I was in this position, I would probably lie. Yeah, it's a shitty thing to do, but I'm also trying to save our skin, if that makes sense. Save ourselves in this situation, because he could obviously, like Finn and other ones said, he could obviously take us on and just be like, oh, you dead now. So maybe lying would be the best idea. The look August shoots me is sharp, incredulous, their expression cracking open to reveal a vulnerability I've never seen before. It's beautiful but frightening in its own way, as if I can hear them say, no, don't. I hold their gaze, hoping that they can see what I'm doing, that they trust me. Please. They exhale sharply, their eyes frantically flickering between Harry and I, and then they nod. It's quick enough for Harry to miss because his focus is upon me and me alone. I'm the one he wants, the one he needs. Though I know my words are not honest, it still pains me to say them. Yes, I understand. You have my cooperation. But maybe we can go against him later. That's what I'm thinking. Like, right now is not the point to attack. Harry inclines his head, gesturing me to follow him. I swallow thickly, unmoving, literally stuck to the spot beside August before I come to terms with what I'm about to do. They're falling apart. The magic aglow is messy in features across their skin like cracks in porcelain. I want to tell them that I have to do this for the sake of Lunaris. To learn what he plans so we can defeat him or whatever he has in store for us. And yet I can't, so August looks at me though I've just signed the town's death warrant. Gus. They shake their head, averting their gaze.
Get out.
Harry lets out a deep chuckle, his eyes crinkling at the corners in genuine amusement.
Always so dramatic. Come now, we cannot waste time convincing someone as stubborn as Augustus. They'll come around eventually.
That's the point. The point is I'm going to condemn him, but I need to get more intel. Now is not the time to confront him. We can't act on our emotions. I throw him one last lingering look, hoping with every fiber of my being that Gus can see through the facade, that they can see I'm still loyal to them, to the town, that I would risk my own life to head into the lion's den with the lion himself guiding me gently by the hand. The drip, drip, drip of water upon stone drowns out the rush of blood in my ears, and I follow the tall figure deep into the darkness. His boots are heavy, steps echoing, and I can hear the gentle scratch of his claw-tipped gauntlet as he drags his fingers along the metal bars of the cells we pass. Enforcer guards line the walls, and they stand to attention, eyes wide. I slowly begin to see why the enforcers had so dutifully followed his nefarious plan. They're terrified. We come to a halt outside one of the farther cells that sit in the darkest corner of the dungeon. Harry stands before it proudly, an almost loving gaze shining into his eyes. Take a look. He gestures for me to step closer, his voice warm and inviting, and I swallow away the fear that claws up my throat, threatening to choke me. I nod, stealing my gaze, and I step forward to peek between the bars. I see a mass looming in the almost darkness. It's her misshapen form, unidentifiable as neither human nor creature. With a quiet whimper, she opens her eyes.
Isn't she beautiful?
I don't think beautiful is the right word here. Aya. Harry hums a satisfied noise.
My proudest creation yet. She is truly a work of art. Don't you agree?
We gotta lie. We have to lie right now. We are in a lying mood because we've got to get out of here with our bot. We got to get out of here, okay, and then we kill. We got to come up with the right moment. I clear my throat, and though I feel horror from seeing her, I feel almost drawn to her. There's a strange, almost undeniable connection throbbing between us, and it's as though I can feel the lingering threads of her humanity or the hunter within her. Strangely, it sings to me like a prayer, and I find myself having to pay mind to the fact that I am here to lie, to gather information. That's the point. It still leaves me feeling sick. There's something about seeing her, that makes my blood turn cold in my veins. She's perfect.
Not quite, but she's close.
What do you mean? Harry sighs, and Aya lunges forward, sharpened teeth snapping. He remains unaffected despite her violent display, and he simply inclines his head towards her, watching her with unabashed fondness.
She was an unwilling subject. Both of them were. I think that may be where I've been going wrong. To succeed, to achieve what I've always longed to.
Oh no, he's gonna try to make me go through it.
Prepared to undergo the transformation.
Oh, I bet he's gonna make me go through it. Oh, I've made a bad decision here. That's not good. Oh no. I look back towards the cell, and Aya is once again retreating to the darkness, no longer visible other than the pair of glowing crimson eyes. Is this what you're asking of me? Harry pauses, carefully considering his response. Why do you think I called you here? I asked for the best, and they sent me you. At first, I thought they were toying with me, this hunter who befriends those who make a point of defying.
The curious witch, the vampire who so desperately longs to be human, the disgraced hunter, the wolf, and the demon who so graciously weakened the barrier between realms without even realizing. And then there's Augustus.
He smiles, something sad, his lashes dipping.
I did hope they would see reason, but something seems to have made them less helpless, less easily swayed.
Regardless, come, I have much to do. I cast Aya a final fleeting glance, and I steal my gaze as I follow Harry out of the dungeons. My heart hammers loudly as we approach Gus's office, but the lack of light streaming from beneath the doors tells me what we'll find is empty. Harry tuts when my suspicions are confirmed, and he looks to me with a sad smile when we step inside.
I did hope they'd still be here. Maybe you would have been able to convince them to help.
I offer him a clipped smile, trying my hardest to seem complacent. Now, the terms of our agreement. He flexes the fingers of his gauntlet, the steel creaking quietly.
Aya is increasingly volatile, and I loathe to admit that I can't control her any longer. So, I want to waste no time. We'll start you on your first dose right away.
Then he reaches his coat and produces a vial. Oh man, it seems eerily familiar, and the sight of a dark viscous liquid encased in delicate glass makes me sick. He holds the high, gazing at it, shamelessly proud of his nefarious creation.
I would give anything to be able to take it. I suspect I would withstand it quite beautifully.
The moonlight that shines through the window hits the glass, and the liquid more black than the red I remember from my dream, and my stomach churns.
But we can't all have what we wish for, can we? Instead, we'll do it together.
He tucks the vial back into his pocket, patting the heavy fabric.
I suppose you'd better go home and get some well-deserved rest. You'll need your strength. We'll begin tomorrow.
My stomach churns, but I nod curtly. Yes, Lieutenant. He laughs, stepping forward to rest his hand upon my shoulder and fixing me with a gaze that, though earnest, sends a chill rolling down my spine.
Please, call me Harry.
I contemplate my next move. I could drag myself back to my room at the Wolf and drown in misery alone, I suppose. They say hunters sleep with one eye open, but enforcers sleep with two, and you don't get as far as Harry without paying full attention. There's no use to hating him, not now. I've seen what I need in order to make my choice. And yet it still hurts, and a strategic part of me loathes the fact that I lied. That I'd gone with him down there, witnessed the true horrors of his crimes. Though I'd have some explaining to do, I know it will be worth it, especially now that I think of Aya and Piper and August. An enforcer passes me, sparing me a glance before they quickly avert their gaze, their head down. They scurry away from me quickly, and I almost smile, fascinated at how fast gossip apparently travels in our dear agency. With a heavy sigh, I decide that the best thing they will do will be sleep off this evening and to face the wrath of my friends in the morning. That's not a good idea. The inn's door creaks as I push it in, but the obnoxious sound isn't enough for me to miss the familiar aura I can sense behind it. My stomach clenches uncomfortably of all the times for Omen to show up. I see him sitting at an empty table near the center of the town, hands clasped together and the faintest wisps of fire trailing from his strands of hair. All around us is an empty tavern. Omen looks up, and an immediate smile he gives me, bright with relief, is like a guilt-shaped punch to my stomach. Were you waiting for me? Carefully, I close the door behind me, and I move to sit next to Omen, and he nods. A glance at the window reveals no skulking spy, and I certainly don't sense anyone, but I'd be a fool to think Harry would not keep an eye on me somehow. The entire conversation still makes me feel sick on the inside to even pretend at all, but I must. This is the best way to get anywhere with the situation, and there's no reason to assume Omen knows. August Wilhelm told me. Or my enforcer can go and babble to the demon prince, and I've been enjoying the company of, that'd be fine too. It's very kind of them. I thought they'd be rather adverse to creatures of all kinds.
They came to me, upset, and asked that I speak to you, to make you reconsider.
The wry smile on Oben's face makes my cheeks burn, but I also feel lighter, especially when he takes my hands and laces our fingers together.
You seem to have convinced them rather well, the poor thing.
Yes, I owe them an apology. Is August here? Omen shakes his head. He rubs slow, smoothing distracting circles on the back of my hand with one thumb, his eyes downcast as he seems to be deep in thought. I don't mind the lack of elaboration. The sheer burgeoning of weight of Omen's presence, now that I'm more used to it, is more of a comfort than it is suffocating. I rest my hand on his wrist gently and let Omen strew in his thoughts while I simply enjoy his company. His eyes flicker at my face, and he reaches up to cut my cheek. I lean into the touch. How are you doing? Omen asks it plainly with a naked concern in his eyes. I blink and shake my head and then forcefully extract myself from the peaceful emptiness that I've been managed to slip into. My mouth feels dry. At once, the fear and fury and the bitterness come rushing back. He thinks it's all right. He thinks what he's done is only the right, correct thing to protect the people in this town. My hand curls into a fist on the table surface, my nails scratching the wood. I notice Omen glance at it, but he stays still and only inclines his head gravely. I would have fought for this peace, not just to protect humans, but for the peace between us and the creatures we share this world with. But we don't need to be made into monsters to be strong enough for it. I remember his placid response to aura of madness about him. It hurts because it's a confirmation of something I've always held in the back of my mind, what Hunter doesn't. Aurora was right. We trample and destroy everything, don't we?
Less than most, actually. And with more conscience than most.
Omen takes the hand I have curled on the table and firmly pries my fist loose so that he can hold on to it. His touch is warm, the neat heat unnatural, and in the slightly dim lighting of the empty tavern, his form seems to fray at the edges, his hair trailing the slightest hint of fire. The brimstone lilies on my belt are another source of warmth, glowing in response to Omen's presence. I take it you won't intervene. Omen shakes his head, his eyebrows knitting in regret.
To act is to invite consequences. The bigger you are, the more impact. If I directly interfere...
He cuts himself off short and sighs harshly, shaking his head again. I disentangle one of my hands to reach up and tuck a strand of his hair behind a pointed ear. Omen blinks and his eyes soften. I understand. This is all rather a human mess, anyhow, and I'm not quite sure how to make a pact with a demon prince yet. I'm not quite ready to make a pact with one.
Wise and prudent. Our people like your type the most.
Really? I thought hell might like extremists.
Extremists to tip the scales, and the good-hearted to tip them back. We don't crave suffering, at least not all of us do. We look for chaos the moment the old order falls and the new one takes shape.
I just want to bring Addington to justice. Omen looks at me, then tilts his head.
What justice of his own making will try him for crimes they think he's justified in committing? Do you think the hidden council responsible for putting him in power will give you the satisfaction of condemning him? Or perhaps, like all the pragmatic, power-hungry humans before them, they will condemn him and then make use of his research for their own purpose. The creatures he made of your colleagues are imperfect, but they're strong, yes? Imperfections can be improved, if not fixed entirely.
My blood runs hot, then cold, with his words. This would make you stronger. It would just make you like an extra weapon, perhaps a serum or pellet or some type of thirst to be consumed when necessary. I remember when I was still a trainee, taken to a location I have no memory of, my recruitment not even entirely my choice because of what 12-year-old was ready to make a life commitment with all the wisdom and facts attached. I remember how absolutely blind we were kept, made ignorant of the world outside of on purpose, save for letters from relatives, carefully vetted by the enforcers. If they took us to a pit one day and told us to die, would we not have jumped? Perhaps we would have. Their word was the only word of guidance and authority we had in those 6 years. How long have you been watching Hunters? Owen inclines his head, but he's not wasting his breath denying anything.
Since your efforts started hindering ours, before you were given weapons and trained, since the first of your kind began praying to gods for protection, when hunters of your caliber wore robes and not sashes.
Centuries, then. Maybe. You know, I could count with those with fingers, human fingers. He wiggles them at me to make a point, and I snort, though I'm not entirely inclined to feel any mirth right now. Something will have to change. Yes. I look down at our joined hands, my head now positively aching at the burgeoning amount of new thoughts and new fears I've suddenly acquired. Will you stay the night? Of course. We get to our feet, and I tangle our hands together again, pulling them towards the stairs. There's so much to do, so much. But all that we'll do tomorrow. Tonight, I think I've earned my rest. I visit August first thing in the morning. When they open the door and invite me inside, I've met with silence. I had to check with you to know that I was deceiving him, that I would never do such a thing. August's fingers twitch, but they slowly offer me a clipped smile.
I know. That was one of the hardest things I've ever had to witness. You've become very dear to me. Seeing you walk out of that door with him, not knowing what he would do or where he would take you, it hurt.
I would never betray your trust, sir. You gotta trust me. It kills me It kills me to see that I've hurt them, but to hear that they do trust me soothes me. I would never betray your trust, not after all we've been through together. The smile that blooms across her lips is bright and earnest.
I'm grateful for your friendship, and I trust you implicitly. We will see this through together, and I'll have your back. Always.
They take a deep breath, exhaling slowly, and the tension that was present melts from their shoulders.
Now tell me, what did you see?
A lot of shit. He has Aya in a cell. There's not even a glimmer of human form left. See, he means for me to take the potion he's concocted. He said he believes me to be worthy. If someone is willing, and then he's convinced the potion will work differently. August scoffs, rolling their eyes, and their sadness seems to have turned into exasperation. His pride will be the death of us all, won't it?
We'll need to gather everyone and come up with some kind of plan, and quickly.
I nod. Right away. afternoon, we meet in the catacombs, aware that it's probably the only location in this town at this point that Harry could not have us watched. And everybody's here. There's a growing awkward silence between us, August frowning down at their feet with sudden intense concentration. I almost laugh at the sight of this mismatched group huddled in Finn's quarters, and Finn's eyes are firmly fixed upon Piper, who unabashedly pokes and prods his belongings. She picks up what I assume to be a very real human skull. Hey, it's the skull from earlier, staring deep into its vacant eye sockets, then smirking smugly at the undead companion.
This what you use to practice your flirting every night?
Ah. Finn grins, shrugging with a cocky kind of nonchalance.
I don't need to practice.
Piper scoffs, placing it back on the shelf. Ah, she snorted too. That's funny. Sure. August groans loudly. Right, can we please get on with this? I can feel my skin cursing me for spending so much time down this damp pit. Then they all pointedly look at me, and I realize that the floor is mine. Right, yes. Omen and Alcar are patrolling the woods, making sure that we know where the best spot to meet Harry will be. Ezra raises his hand, and August rolls their eyes at this politeness. How are we going to get him to come find you, and how do we know he'll have Aya with him? Piper's gaze drops to the floor at the mention of her friend's name. He'll come. He means to give me his concoction and have me drink it. I'll figure that part out when I get to it, I suppose.
I'm guessing we don't need to advise you that drinking it would be a terrible idea, no? Your acting doesn't need to be that good.
Yes, General. Then Piper clears her throat. I need to be the one to stop Aya. Everyone looks at her, gazes sympathetic.
She was my friend, and I might not be able to save her, but I can make sure it's as quick as possible.
August wraps an arm around her shoulder and pulls her close, their embrace quick but meaningful. We understand whatever you need.
And what of us? What do you need us to do?
I need you to just stand there and keep being good looking. Just kidding. Before I can respond, August steps forward.
Have our backs if necessary. Other than that, just stay hidden. The last thing we need is to rile him up further by flaunting our alliance with the very creatures he longs to eliminate.
Especially once he realizes that Ddog has deceived him, we can't imagine how he'll react, but it won't be well. Finn and Ezra exchange a look, and I can feel apprehension rolling off of them in waves, but still they nod in their agreement. So I'm using myself as bait, essentially. Fun! He'll pay for what he's done.
Then all we need to do is wait.
Finn scoffs, crossing his arms over his broad chest.
Remember what I said about him. He is strong and clever. Don't let the fact that he's human give you pause. You don't need to hold back.
If I've learned anything about Harry in the years I've known him, it's that he never backs down when he has sights set on something. August sighs, worrying their bottom lip between their teeth.
Yes, Finnegan is right. And he doesn't give a damn about the cost of his actions anymore either, clearly.
That thought has my skin prickling with heat, my hair standing on end. He truly will stop at nothing. Jane's death proved that to all of us. We'll end this, once and for all. Are we planning on killing him? What are we planning on doing? Just taking him in? Apprehending him? I don't know, but I think we're going to find out next time. Goodbye, everybody.